to one more of Católica Lisbon webinars sponsored by the European Investment Bank Institute in the context of SIT, the Social Innovation Tournament, which is the flagship initiative of the social program. For those of you who don't know about the initiative of the European Investment Bank, you can follow the link, which I think Denise, you can't see Denise, but Denise is on the backstage organizing this. I think Denise is going to put the link for the European Investment Bank on your chat box. Take a look at it, please. One warning just to say that this webinar is going to be recorded, and you can have the record after the session, as well as the flow of the interview. And today we're going to talk about a subject that was one of the most requested subjects of the alumni in the SIT, which is digital marketing. It's a subject that it's in the center of the world we live in. We all struggle somehow with the consequences that the digital, revolution is having on the way we live, we relate, on our habits, on the way the different agents in the economic overview relate to each other. And I think it's a very, actual theme. And of course, we couldn't talk about this subject without having an expert in digital marketing. But before I introduce my guest, I'm going to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Frederico Fezas Vital, and I've been working for the last 12 years with social innovation and impact. I created my own organization 12 years ago, and then I found out about social entrepreneurship and the wonderful world of social innovation. And I didn't leave this world anymore, and I've been, just doing my path in social innovation. Now I'm the CEO of an organization called Junior Achievement in Portugal. It's an organization that is focused on education for entrepreneurship, and it's present in 130 countries all over the world, with 100 years of activity. In Portugal, 13 years. But besides that, I teach social entrepreneurship in Católica Lisbon for undergraduates, and I also give impact bootcamps in INSEAD together with the team, where the head of the team is Felipe Santos, which is now the Dean of Faculty at Católica Lisbon. And one of the things, actually talking about digital marketing, one of the things that as an entrepreneur myself, a social entrepreneur myself, I've been, asking is, how do we manage to choose the right tools, to know what's available? Because the evolution, the way the evolution goes, it's so fast that sometimes, I must confess, I have a FOMO, I have a fear of missing out, not only in my personal life, but also regarding new tools and new techniques and new features that are coming every day. And it's very easy to lose yourself in all of this. So, because it's so difficult, I think the experience of someone that has been dealing with this for a long period is going to be useful on this context. This person I invited, Rafic, is not only a successful entrepreneur, international entrepreneur, but and it's very well known by his friends and people who deal with him by being very straightforward, very realistic about the way he approaches businesses. But also he has a strong component of worrying about how human beings develop. He likes to think and strategize about a lot of things. And I thought that it could be useful. And because, of course, he has a mixed profile of entrepreneur and investor at the same time, I think this conversation can be very interesting. And because I want to honor him, I'm going to read a short bio of Rafic, because I don't want to miss any part. Rafic Daud is a successful international entrepreneur and a partner senior executive at Doud & Daud, a real estate and financial investments firm. He has also helped turn around fortunes of Mariano Parfumeries and increased sales to double-digit percentages for other companies he has worked for in the past. He is now more focused in UNDANDY, which he co-founded in 2015, together with his partner Gonçalo Henriques. A brand which, like Monaco so well put it, combines the shoemaking heritage with the last digital technology. Rafic speaks 7 languages, he's a polyglot, holds an executive MBA at the CAS Business School, and the Master of Economics at Nova School of Business and Economics. He is also a two-time national junior chess champion, an addict for strategy. And on Dandy, about the business, on Undandy, undandy.com, if you want to know more about the business, you can personalize a pair of unique shoes with an overall of 156,000 million combinations that can cost on average 220 euros for classic shoes and 145 for the sneaker mode. The personalization process, all made online, is very straightforward with only 5 stages. The customer visits the brand's website and picks the last that better fits their style. With 3 options currently available for classic shoes: original round toe, cozy, original claw toe, bold, and the original puff toe, eternal classic. Then it is time to customize all the details in a simulation process which allows the customer to easily experiment with colors, materials, different options for the toe cap, the shoelaces, and the stitching. And finally, choosing the size and finish the order. Have I explained it right, the process?
Yes.
Until now? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
A brand focusing in a market niche and manufacturing shoes for a customer who value a unique style allied to quality and design. With only a few years in business, Undandy is already selling their products to such diverse markets as Russia, China, Nigeria, Qatar, and the United Kingdom and the United States. So, Rafic, welcome.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. I hope you weren't too, bored with all this introduction, but I feel that people needed to know your whole profile. I would maybe start by asking you, how has your journey been since, your first business as an entrepreneur? And tell us about your journey until you got to this point, to Undandy. And in this journey, how were you aware of the way that digital was transforming the business? And when did you decide that you would focus on digital marketing and digital as, the base of this business?
Okay, long story short, without trying to sound too boring, I mean, my journey as an entrepreneur probably started when I was born. My parents were already managing a small store. Coming from an Indian family, that's pretty much what you do. You start working at your family's business from a very young age. I did eventually work corporate for 5 years after finishing graduation, had a whole stellar career. After that, I founded probably by now, I don't know, more than 10 companies for sure. At least 2 or 3 of them were complete failures. Some of them went okay-ish, and a couple of them went fairly well. But that's just, that's just the game you're playing when you're playing with entrepreneurship and startups and this kind of thing. So I've been doing this all my life, from fragrance and cosmetics, which was the bulk of my activity, to property and real estate, to used clothing, to office furniture, to actually social entrepreneurship for a brief period of time where I actually met Fred, and many other activities. I do believe the principles of business have not changed and will never change. They're based on a P&L, and that's it. That's all you need to manage. Whether you're selling bananas or you're selling shoes, it's pretty much the same. It's consumers. That doesn't change. It's understanding the psyche of the consumer that counts. Whether it's digital or physical, online or offline, it's people. It's all about people. That has never changed. It will never change. It's understanding how people think, how people react, how people engage, that will drive a successful business. If you align consumers' interest, if you focus on consumers' interest, you'll always be aligned with shareholder value. Because providing and adding value to people in whatever way, shape, or form translates into success of the organization or the process that's being deployed to provide such value.
Okay, so you said the basis of the business didn't change. So what did change with this, in this last 15 years? What do you think digital marketing actually brought you that is really good? And what challenges, additional challenges, do you think we're facing now?
Okay, fair question. I don't think nothing substantial changed, to be honest. I think we have witnessed a pace of incremental innovation over the last, 50 years since the Cold War. We actually got all the way to the moon. We found ways to travel across continents. We did a whole lot of disruptive innovation. The internet is nothing new. The internet is a result of the 1960s and the Cold War project. So yeah, what we have seen is incremental innovation. It became faster, it became slimmer, it became thinner, it became portable. Now it's here. It's on a cell phone. And what
everyone can be an innovator now.
Everyone can be an innovator. And what this allows is for change in consumer behavior. In people's, I like the word consumer, it allowed for changes in people's behaviors. The way we used to get around the campfire to tell stories or go out for coffee, we don't do that anymore. Or we do it differently. We do it over a social media platform. The way you used to go out to find a date, to go out, now you just swipe left, swipe right. So this has allowed for people to interact, connect, transact in different ways. The needs being met are still the same, but clearly it changed the way we were doing things. Very much like the Industrial Revolution changed a lot of things, very much like the press. The way things are done has drastically changed. The big difference, as opposed to previous revolutions, I would say, is that this one is exponential. The rhythm and pace is not compatible, or this is happening. No, this has already happened. For example, just now, and thank you for the introduction, you were reading a biography, which you probably found online somewhere, about a company that has 2 years old, and I was listening, I was like, that's totally outdated, because it's not true anymore. But because you probably found it online, this is actually a good example of how things change so fast. Something that was new to a biography that you found, and I'm pretty sure it's accurate, but it's 2 years old. It's completely Jurassic already. It's still on point because we haven't changed the business model, but this does show that things change at a different pace. Just 10 years ago, think of this, 10 years ago, there was no internet on our hands. The iPhone is 10 years old. Just 20 years ago, there was no email, or 25 years ago, or WhatsApp, or messaging services. So obviously, if we're acting in different ways, communicating in different ways, buying in different ways, obviously that would translate into businesses, organizations operating in different ways. But I don't think much has changed, to be honest.
Okay, but you were telling about, the opportunities this creates, because anyone can be an innovator now. So what big change that this digital era brought was that everyone can do, disruption now.
I usually say that's the good news. So
what is the bad news?
So good news is it's easier than ever to start a business. Anyone with a cell phone and a couple of $100 can do anything. That's all you need is a cell phone interconnected to the internet and a couple of $100. With a Shopify store, with something, whatever, it's fairly easy to start a business. And that's the good news, because we can see this happening all throughout the world. And you have access, by the way, you don't have access to your local markets anymore. Oh, I'm in Portugal, so I'll sell in Lisbon, and maybe I'll go to Oporto. No, you have access to New York, to Texas, to Tokyo. Good news. Bad news is that it's easier than ever. It's easier than ever for everyone. In China, in India, and they're going after the same clients. You're not competing with Portugal anymore. You're competing on a whole worldwide ecosystem where it's easy for everyone. So suddenly, competition became a whole lot more fierce.
Okay, so what you're saying is that we don't have local no more, and all is global. Because when you talk about impact ventures, for instance, normally we talk about ventures that start locally. With the knowledge of a segment or a set of beneficiaries, and you have to know them deeply in order to, create value for the societal problem that he's dealing with. And much of the, the difference that impact ventures may create, or the differentiation factors, come from the proximity they have with people. And therefore, when you think about scaling impact ventures, there's mixed thought between local and global, meaning that we don't know pretty often how to scale because we are afraid to lose this advantage of being close to our audiences, to our beneficiaries. How can you balance well the humanity of closeness with having to be global?
Good question. I don't know if I can articulate an intelligent answer to that, to be honest. What I do see is the world is global. We've been talking about globalization for a period. The world is global. Because how am I going to scale a doctor's appointment? You do. Actually, nowadays, if I want to be seen by a psychologist in New York, I am. There are platforms that do that. If I want to seen by anything, really, it's completely global. I don't need to follow. Look at the media, for example. People used to read whatever, Expresso or Visão in Portugal or the Daily Sun in the UK. Nowadays, everyone can feed off the same source. They can read TechCrunch, they can read global publications, they're accessible to all. So you used to talk about the shoe business, for example. I used to go to my local cobbler and buy my shoes around. Well, we've sold to over 140 countries by now. That's 140 in 2 years' time, 2.5 years' time. And we sell regularly every day to 40, 50 different countries. And we communicate and we transact and we have our relationship with our customers with the same, well, we try to, with the same proximity that our local store used to have with our customers, but we do so with different tools.
Yeah, but you're talking about a business that is not, human differentiated, because you can do everything online and probably your clients value that because they can customize that product and they can pay for it and then they can have it in your home. But when you're talking about solving a social problem of the community, for instance, it's totally different, because you have to be in contact with them, you have to go to where they live, you have to understand the ecosystem where, the societal. But how do you scale your mission? This is a challenge, I know, because you don't have an impact lecture.
I don't have the answer.
It's for us to reflect a bit. How could you use digital the best way to scale the mission? Because another thing is when we think about using digital for getting funds, or for creating awareness, or for creating a brand.
But that's exactly what digital can be used for. Exactly because maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it was really hard to scale certain things because you need to have to be really close. Nowadays, you can be really close to anyone in New York, LA, and Tokyo at the same time. And I'm not saying you can replace the human component by no way, shape, or form. What I am saying is digital has allowed for exactly that, to scale the stuff that wasn't scalable. That's actually, let's be pragmatic, the only thing that the internet brings is scale. You suddenly, for whatever, be it impact, be it social, be it a doctor, be it a business, you suddenly have access to everyone and anyone in the whole world. Yesterday, I was speaking to a guy on Twitter. I don't even know where he was from, and I sold him a pair of shoes. Like, I had nothing to do. It was Sunday, and I was like, hey, dude, and I sold him a pair of shoes. How could I scale my local shoe store? Yes, digital allows you to scale everything. We've even scaled sex. I mean, in all fairness, Tinder, there's one platform and it's the same.
Yeah.
It became scalable. So the internet deals with a different scale. So my participation in UNDANDY started more seriously in late 2016 when I took over the business and started managing it back as an operator. And what I did find out was exactly that, is that when you used to think about businesses, I don't know, 5 years ago when I used to think about businesses, and I would say like 10 million, it's, oh, it's fair, it's a good scale. Suddenly, I'm now dealing in a world where 15 million and below, it's considered a micro brand. You don't even exist. It's like anything below 15 million, like in the digital world, you don't exist. It's it's like a small corner shop. So even I had that experience, which shoot, scale went like through the roof. And that's a result of the globalization. Now, I don't know how to scale that, it's how to use that or to leverage that to specific areas, be it social venturing or impact ventures or whatever. What I do know is that the internet has brought scale. Then how to leverage in specific things have to be adapted to whatever that organization is trying to do.
Yeah, because there's a big difference between traditional business and impact ventures, which is, of course, we're not interested in maximizing profit, right? Mm-hmm. So what you were saying just now about, either you have 10 million sales or 15 million, or you're a micro business, mm-hmm. and you're not relevant in the big wide web.
Yep.
That's not so important for impact ventures, because mainly I see two final goals of using digital marketing for impact ventures. One is, of course, getting your possible investors to know more about the organization in an inspiring way and differentiating way. So the way you communicate and you differentiate yourself in order to get the resources you need to have more scale in your mission. And as you were saying before, of course, it has always to be a mixed model where proximity is very important. Okay, but then we're not worried in maximizing profit. But the point is, what you're saying takes me to another issue, which is mainly what you're saying is that no matter what goals we have in digital marketing, whether it is maximizing profit or getting more awareness or building your brands. We all have to compete for the same thing.
For the same click, for the same person. Yes, and it's a scarce inventory.
Elaborate a bit on this, because
limited inventory. The competition is not social versus social or shoe store versus shoe store. The competition is attention. Basically, people are competing for people's attention. We used to consume information in a certain way. Nowadays, we're competing with our friend's post about his wedding and the other friend's post about his holidays. And suddenly in between that, there's a post about a company trying to sell some shoes. And in between that, there's a post about a company trying to sell some, I don't know, impact venture. And there's a post about something. So you're competing in that space against all that. And what you're trying to get is people's attention. That's actually the ultimate, that's actually the real valuable, tangible asset. That's the only asset, is people's attention. That's limited, it's scarce, it's this. Now, they're gonna give it to this, or that, but that's the competition in the digital world, which, by the way, I usually say that speaking about digital is like speaking about gravity. There is no non-digital world anymore, it's the world. It's like speaking about the world. The world operates in this way. We don't speak about the world with no cars. Yeah, cars are part of it's how we move. We don't think about, let's go over there. I took an Uber when I got here. I didn't get on my horse to get here and came all the way from Liberdade to Católica. So digital is kind of like that. I mean, it's not a thing anymore. It's just there.
So could you say, as a consequence of that, and following your thoughts, could you say that there is no sense of talking about digital marketing, because in such
talk about marketing.
Marketing is digital, and that's it.
Because the world is digital, and it's just going to get more digital. By the way, I actually think, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not the first one to say, today is the day where this cell phone has the least impact in my life. It's just going to get more and more and more and more. So, yeah, I mean, it's talking about thing that it's there. It's not digital marketing versus marketing. It's marketing.
But that's really, at the same time, it's exciting because it gives us so many opportunities. But the other side of the coin is, that's scary, because when you talk about impact ventures, and I'm bringing back the subject to impact ventures, when you talk about impact ventures, most of the time we start the ventures with bootstrapping, friends, family, and fools, and we struggle a lot to have the resources necessary to get the minimum scale. And I'm not talking about global scale. I'm talking about sometimes it's very hard to get a national-wide scale, and we having bigger constraints and less resources most of the times. How can we have a successful strategy in digital or using digital tools in order to make our project more consistent in this digital world?
Again, going back to my previous answer, how would you have that impact 5 years ago or 10 years ago without the existence of digital? What would you do? What were the steps that you would do to create a meaningful organization or impactful organization, locally or not locally, without funds? How would you do it 10 years ago?
Yeah, so
I'm asking.
Okay, I know, but I'm trying to follow the meaning of your question.
The answer will be, whatever you did 10 years ago, you're going to do exactly the same. It's not changed. So I would knock on people's doors and talk to them. Let's say you go door to door and spread the word about whatever organization there is, trying to create an impact. Well, you now don't knock on people's doors, you'd go on their Twitter account and talk to them. Or you go on their Instagram account and you talk to them. Whatever the principles were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, they haven't changed. Just the way people operate has changed. I don't actually think none of that has changed. It has allowed for one thing. If I was in Lisbon and I wanted to have an impact in New York, I need to get on a plane, fly. Now I don't. I can literally do that without getting on that flight, without needing to be there. But whatever I was doing in Lisbon, be it selling shoes or whatever, I'm just doing the same thing according to the way people interact nowadays. Let's even go a bit deeper. 10 years ago, there were like websites for dating. They're all done, disappeared. They don't exist anymore because there's an app that does all that, or a couple of apps. So if that's where people are, if that's what people are doing, it's just getting to them with the medium. And It's not a matter of fortunate or unfortunate. It's just the way the world is. It's made our lives 1,000 times better. I just got here, look, without owning a car. I literally just got out of the office. I had actually a private driver. I called on Uber. The guy came, picked me up, dropped me off here. So my life is exponentially better. If I want to buy the best product available, I now have resources in my hand. I have access to all the categories, all the information, all the price comparison. So my life is substantially easier as a result of digital. I can contact you and say on WhatsApp, Fred, at 3 o'clock here, done deal, there. Send me a WhatsApp location, here you go. None of this was possible, and all this is improving our lives. So it's just the way people are living.
Okay, but if you are, I come back to the point, which is, if you are in a impact venture with scarce resources, which is actually the norm, what kind of strategies can you have with not many resources to have some, effective digital presence?
That's not that. I wouldn't say that's different from an impact venture or a non-impact venture. I think it's actually the same. If you're a company and doesn't have access to funding or this, companies are still built. There need to be bootstrapped somehow. So yeah, if you got money, run a Facebook ad, fine. And by the way, we do a lot. Run Facebook ads. If you don't, go on Twitter and talk to every single person available, which is, by the way, what I was doing the whole afternoon yesterday.
Because you told me when you started UNDANDY, what was the level of investment you need to do? Can you tell us about the beginning of the business a bit step by step so we understand what you had to do to start a successful brand?
Well, I wouldn't even call it a successful brand yet, to be honest. It's still a brand in the making. So UNDANDY, I was the original investor in UNDANDY back in 2015. So 2015, 2016, the company was funded mostly by me. Yeah. In September 2016, we were faced with a harsh decision, which was to close shop or to try and continue. I decided to try and continue, so I took over the company. I invested additional funds into the company and went to an operator function. And one of the things that I learned is vision with no execution is hallucination.
Okay, can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So I didn't change the company. I didn't change substantial things, but what we did change was the execution, the way things were done. And we started seeing some results.
So you talk about processes.
Yeah, processes. Some strategy, but it's not just, I have this grand idea. That grand idea usually is worth 1%, period. That's just what it is. Like they're a dime a dozen. There's always a new one coming. The real difference is, can you execute on that grand idea? Oh, I want to touch impact, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for impact ventures. Oh, I want to open things that impact people and children's lives and make them. Yeah, I think I've heard it at least 30 times in my life. You did it, but it wasn't about the idea. It was, can you go and actually do it, get it done on the field? So that's where the real difference lies. I think it's execution. It's go out there, freaking knock on those doors. Oh, don't knock on those doors. Tear those doors open, burst through them, and make it happen.
Okay, so I'll take this opportunity to tell everyone that if you want to put any question, we have a question from Mauro Macerate. We'll go there in a minute, but if you want to do some questions, please do on your chat box. We'll be able to see them. But the questions I have here are already based on the questions that were previously sent by the participants. So, but if something is missing, please let us know. Then we have a question from Mauro. Rafic, you can read it. About this impact of digital era, do you think it's the same for B2B business or it's mainly for B2C markets?
No, I think it's completely applied, completely transversal in that sense. That's the same with B2B or B2C. 20 years ago, business required a partnership. It would probably go, I don't know, to the yellow pages or to a connection. Nowadays, it goes online. It goes tick, 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 search for, so it's the same. I think the digital transformation impacted society as a whole. Governments, organizations, impact ventures, business to business, business to consumer, people are acting with the cell phone in their hands, and that's what's changing everything.
Yeah, what changes is the model. with which you implement your business, of course.
Correct, but that's specific to each business.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing, the result, the consequence of what we've been saying, in your opinion, there's no chance that a business or an impact venture, by the way, could scale without the digital today.
I don't think an organization can exist without digital, or the ones that do will very soon perish. Because that's like saying, oh, I want to exist riding horses. Well, very soon there will be no one riding horses in the streets.
Okay, so that brings me another question, which is basically for impact ventures, once again, we have not so many resources. Sometimes they don't have money to buy, not only to buy, the tools or to have access to the licenses of some softwares or whatever,
yeah,
but also to attract the necessary qualified talent. Because as it seems to me, the point is you have to be hyper qualified, as we had the chance to talk before, and you have to do it fast. So would you say that one thing that would be imperious for any business, and especially for impact ventures, struggling for finding their digital strategy, would be to quickly get the basic skills of digital and start working? What do you suggest?
Good question. Not sure I have an intelligent answer to that, because it's a bit of a paradox, which is, yes, digital has made business way more complex, way more. It's not more. It became simpler and easier, but it's 10x more complex, because now you need to understand about technology, you need to understand about conversion rates, you need to understand a whole bunch of things. Conversion rates like the minimum, the simplest thing of them all, but there's a whole spectrum that you need to understand, and it's ever changing. As a result, qualified professionals are scarce. We can't even hold them. Even the companies paying top dollars for them, we can't hold them. It's like we need to find them and really cherish them. And it's like impact does have, in my opinion, an advantage over traditional businesses, which is the sheer fact that they are purpose-driven, which makes it easier for people to connect and want to be in that organization for longer periods. Because at the end of the day, people do want to have an impact. Companies want to leave their dent in the universe somehow, and impact ventures do just that. There's a very famous premise. There's a very studied phenomenon, which is the volunteer's folly, whereby a lot of people, like, if sometimes even very rich people or very successful executives, and go, I want to help the world, I'm going to go plant trees. And he plants 50 trees, right? But actually, that is not the way to have the greatest impact, because the skills that he had, let's say in digital, for example, or as an executive, will make him, I don't know, $1 million a year. So you want to do that, and out of that 1 million, get 500,000, hire 50 people to hire 50 trees each, and you had way more impact than say, I'm going to quit my job and create and put trees. But people are not objective in this thought process. People want to feel useful, so they actually want to go and plant trees themselves. So I do think impact has a role because it aligns more with people's purposes than organizations or traditional for-profit organizations can.
That's really interesting, and it relates to another point of a talk we had before preparing this webinar, which was there was a moment when you told me that people still want the same, which is all about purpose, fulfilling, care. Okay, so would you say that if on one hand impact ventures may have a disadvantage on a financial point of view, because they don't have the the $1 million that you need to do an effective marketing campaign in digital or in Facebook or whatever. Or Google Ads. At the same time, they have an advantage. They can convert, for instance, in the way they inspire people and companies to allocate their resources to.
Because the message is more impactful. The message is way more meaningful. So that function of impact in digital is a result of value proposition. There's a gazillion things here. But one of them is the actual message. What are you saying? And I prefer to hear, much more pleasing to everything, to hear I'm changing the world for the better by helping someone than, oh, I'm selling a pair of shoes. Okay, great.
So it all goes back to the value proposition. What you're saying is that if the content you're selling or you're communicating is really transforming, that in the end of the day will be
is an advantage. It's not the only variable in the function, but it's clearly one variable in the function where I think impact ventures I mean, if you just look at the corporate world all across the spectrum, they're trying to squeeze in corporate narratives just so that their message becomes more impactful. Yeah, because that is one function of the variable. You need to have an impactful mission. As I said, it's an unconscious bias. People feel more fulfilled planting 50 trees than making $1 million and hiring 50 people to plant 250,000 trees, which is actually more impactful in the end. 250,000 trees versus 50 trees, this is more impact. So you should have gone here because this changes the world for the better. Yeah. But people prefer this model because it makes them feel good about themselves, and it's all about themselves.
So this is one key variable that impact ventures could really try to leverage. What are the key variables would you think that impact ventures will have to work on to build a stronger presence, digital stronger presence? For instance, one thing I struggle a lot I struggled when I started my own venture, Terra dos Sonhos, was how can I find investors? And because you're also an investor, how can I find possible investors in my venture in the digital world? Because it's so difficult to reach the right targets and the right segments. Where do investors in companies, travel in
It's the same. It's the same as in the corporate world or the for-profit world. I very frequently I'm talking or giving talks on entrepreneurship. So, but how do I find the investments? Yeah, dude, you get on the phone list, you find them one by one, you look through their Twitter profile, see who they are, see what their interests are, try and find a way to bridge them, try and find a mutual connection. Don't just go there, oh, here I am, look at me. No, you're not going to get there because they get 1,000 messages like that. Do the hard work. Knock on doors one by one. Read about the person. Discover who they are, what their interests are, what's their purpose. Find that mutual person who can do the introduction, not just a cold lead, not just, oh, how here's. No, find a warm lead that can lead to that person. Do the research on the fund, business, corporation, individual that you're trying to get to invest. And then get them to invest. This is not, I wouldn't say it's any different in the startup world where like every single startup, oh, but I have no money. How am I going to start this? Well, actually, forget being a startup. We're raising capital ourselves very frequently. So it's the same. It's like,
but easier to get in touch with them because it's so wide. Yeah, no,
it's not. Trust me, it's not. Those guys get 1,000 proposals. I think I saw this. I think it was yesterday. I was seeing this. So an average venture fund, for example, in Silicon Valley. Okay, I'm going straight to Silicon Valley, but the average venture fund gets about 20,000 proposals per annum. 20,000. That means they can analyze 200 to invest in 20. I'm not kidding. 20,000. They analyze 200. They invest in 20. So this is how hard it is. And I'm talking about startups, for profits. Like this is how hard the funnel is. 20,000, 200, 20 get the check. 20. So I wouldn't say it's any easier. It's hard work.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've been talking about is the need to be qualified and know something about the digital world. And that is something available because knowledge is available all over the web. So you can get more informed about how social networks work. And we have a lot of questions about social networks because when you talk about causes and impact ventures, that's an easy or apparently easy way to get to your audiences and investors. And you have to be qualified, but that's not enough. What you're saying is that you need to be creative about the way you communicate and the contents that you develop. And their impact ventures have an advantage because they are inspiring and they have, they can appeal to some things that brands that compete in the same space but don't have this part of inspiring, transforming society. But it's also necessary to be very persistent and consistent, meaning that you have to feed every day your social networks and you have to be constantly communicating. Isn't that true?
Every single day. If you're not putting out, and we're not, by the way, we as a brand are not, we're not even close. We wish we were, but we don't have the funds. See, I know what I had to do to succeed, but to actually do that, we needed at least a check of 20 or 30 million. We don't have that kind of funding yet. So yeah, you need to be consistent and keep going at it. It's the same challenge for everyone. It's like you don't stop. Information, knowing how to, has become easier than ever. Like the whole of knowledge, the knowledge of mankind accumulated is in my cell phone. Of the whole of mankind, of the whole of history, I've got access to all the information. I also give, not on this building, on that building over there, but I also lecture here at Católica Lisbon, Luxury Brand Management and Retail Management. And I'm like, look, everything that I'm saying, you can find it on the web. You literally, all you need is a cell phone. You type it and you ask Google and you get the answers. But you need to ask the questions over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what separates. It's like, are people willing to do that? Oh, but I really want to change the world. But yeah, but can you really spend 10, 20 hours of your day for 2 years, non-stop, asking and learning good stuff so that you can then execute? And that's what really separates the startups that succeed, the ones that don't. It's just how hungry they are for it. I would say that that's what really separates the ones that succeed than the ones that don't. Be it startup, for profit, not profit, is how hungry are you to actually do that?
Yeah, the problem and the risk for impact ventures, as I see it, is that many times we start with a very small team. Well, very often just a social entrepreneur, yes, a very focused and motivated and passionate, but it's only one. And having to do that at the same time that he's deploying, the activities necessary to have an impact, it's really
freaking hard.
Yeah,
but it's not different from impact ventures to any other venture. Most startups start up with one person, and how hungry is that guy? And that's what actually most people and investors assess, is how hungry is that guy?
Actually, I think we have an advantage to traditional business. There are traditional startups, which is, once again, that corporations more and more have a social impact or cultural impact or environment impact in their agendas.
Yes, and they don't know how to do it, and they outsource it to someone else.
They don't know how to do it. It's not their core, and they want to outsource something that does do. So it's kind of an advantage of impact ventures instead of being a disadvantage.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay, good. So we have another question about social impact investments, which is not the expertise of Rafic, but as an investor, do you have some knowledge about some different impact investments opportunities beyond what we already know, like venture funds, the access to social enterprise getting the funds needed for their operation? Do you know something about this?
I don't know much about the topic or the space specifically, but I have met with tons of funds. Actually, funds, corporations, companies, startups. Most of them start with a social mission nowadays. So
we see more and more blended.
We see more and more blended. Exactly, they're blended. It's like it's got to work both ways, because the sole purpose of a business is no longer to make money. I mean, come on, it would be very, very sad world if it was so. They need to have some form of impact in whatever society, community they operate in.
But knowing investors and being very realistic, because I know you're a no bullshit guy.
As much as I can.
Being very realistic as you are. My question is, do you really think that investors are, in a way, that themselves getting blended in the way they analyze businesses?
Yes. Very direct, yes.
Okay. Can you have any concrete examples of?
Yeah, actually, I know a ton of venture funds who actually have in their core mission from taking that funnel. So they analyze they get 200 applications, 20,000 applications, they analyze 200, they invest in 20. Very often in the funds, there's already in the fund structure that they're going to allocate, let's say 30% of the capital to tech, 20% of the capital to health, 10% of the capital to this, and usually there's a percentage of the capital to some sort of impact. Sometimes it can be just go apply in Africa or apply in here, but there's always a part of the fund that's allocated for that. So I'm talking about big for-profit funds.
Okay, so they're including for-profit funds are including in their portfolio this kind of investment.
Because again, it makes them feel good. Nobody likes to.
Actually, that's a very good point, because I always thought thinking about the evolution for this digital world, that the more the evolution is here, the more digital we are, bigger the need to understand our humanity and be more human, meaning that it forces us to think what kind of human beings we want to be. And what I see as a social, entrepreneur is the same that you see as a, traditional business guy or investor, which is people really need that connection, that purpose, that sense of making the difference in their communities or globally, actually, sometimes. Okay, good. We have some questions here from participants, and let's get a bit more specific because we don't have much time. So social media is, of course, tools that causes an impact ventures use a lot. What would you be your advice to how to select the right social media for your business? Because that was the second question. So we must be in all. So what's the strategy there? What's the strategy there?
There is no strategy. People are everywhere. People have a Twitter account, they have an Instagram account, they have a Facebook account, they have a LinkedIn account. So if people are everywhere, you need to be everywhere.
But that it's not dependable on the kind of impact venture or the business you have. Is it the same an impact venture that works with healthcare or works with?
I mean, there may be obviously if you're targeting more of a business person, you probably have more chances of higher success on LinkedIn. But that same business person is a business person during the day, but then he goes on Instagram to see his vacations or whatever. So you want to reach the people. And the people are everywhere. So the answer to that is very simple. It's there's no, Facebook is better than Instagram. Yes, that was the debate 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That's not a debate. It's like you're everywhere. That's like opening, let's go back to roots. It's like that's opening a store. Should I just put water in my store or should I have water and Coke as well? No, you have water and Coke because people drink water and Coke. So you have water and Coke. It's not water or Coke.
Really interesting.
It's water and Coke.
It's really interesting because I can give my personal example. I have a network in LinkedIn. I have 10,000 people linked. But when I think about, posting and what kind of post am I going to put on LinkedIn and Facebook, it's curious because some of the leads that I got in my business, I thought that I was going to get them in LinkedIn. And then I got them on Facebook. And someone told me, listen up, I manage this company, by the way. And please get in touch with, my assistant or whatever. Could you please have a meeting? Because I posted like a subject related to my profession on my Facebook. And I did it as an experience, actually. And I was pretty surprised. But that goes back and relates what you're saying.
People are everywhere. So if people are everywhere and you want to reach people, you got to be everywhere.
So be everywhere or die.
Yes. I mean,
that's or die.
Unfortunately, and again, it's not the digital. Darwin said it. It's the capacity to adapt and evolve that allows for the survival of the species. The ones who can adapt are the ones who survive, not the strongest. Is the more flexible, the more adaptable, because the environment changes.
That's very, very, very curious, and it relates to another thing we talked, which is you were saying in our conversation before that the biggest skill we can have now. It's not about, knowing your stuff in digital. It's about neuroplasticity.
Learning. It's the only thing. Learning. It's the only thing that differentiates it nowadays. Because 10 years ago, people, I know this. I know digital marketing, guys. Go on the web. Go on Google. There's everything you need to know about digital marketing done by 100,000 people, all super qualified. So knowledge is available to everyone. So whatever you know, it's becoming irrelevant. It's what you can learn and how fast you can learn that counts.
Actually, I can see that. I work with education. And more students want, of course, things that challenge them and challenge their curiosity somehow. And of course, neuroplasticity is about, having the mindset to constantly learning throughout your life. It's a constant learning process. And talking about digital and scale and neuroplasticity and learning, one of the issues I've been having with the junior achievement is I want to scale through digital because it seems to be a good opportunity. But once again, I'll have a platform where I have embedded programs. But my advantage with schools and students is that I'm very close to them. So is scaling through a digital platform going to kill my advantage of being close? or do I have scale to scale physically as well? You know, sometimes I have this problem, and these struggles are not easy. What's the right balance between both? We don't know because it's a new world. Right?
We don't know.
But what kind of clues or hints could you, when we think about the strategy of digital marketing, what would you say the participants that you should think about?
The only thing I can say, and again, this is coming from a very limited knowledge of the digital sphere. It's been 2.5 years since I've been operating with digital, but I still get often invited to talk about digital. I knew nothing about it, zero, nothing, 0 over 0. I knew nothing 2.5 years ago. I had already invested in a digital business, and I managed in 2.5 years to know a little bit more. I still don't know much. I know a little bit more. It's like the information is there for anyone to learn. All you need to do is go and do it. Okay, and that is actually the key mission. The only thing that differentiates, I don't know how many people are listening to this, and I'm regardless of the audience.
How many people are listening to this?
Yeah,
sorry,
a few dozen people. But I could be speaking to an audience of 1,000. I say the exact same thing, and I know that out of those 1,000 people, only 2 or 3 will actually get out of that talk and do the work. Because but I want to know. But go and freaking do the work.
Okay, so it's all about motivation and focus, basically.
That's all it counts. All the rest is accessible to everything.
At this moment, I'm going to open up to participants if they want to ask something and be more specific. Any particular question you would like to address to Rafic or to me, and we can both discuss. I don't know if they can connect or just write questions. You can do both. You can talk or write some question if you want. We don't have that much time left. If you don't, I have more questions for Rafic, so it's okay. Okay, I'll just go on. So, there's a question here about impact venture. You have one question there? Oh, whether you have more investment, Facebook, Instagram, or Google Ads?
It really depends on the month, and we're investing all throughout all platforms.
But how do you decide in which to invest each month?
The one that's yielding more return.
Okay, and how do you evaluate that?
It's very specific metrics. Like we know that we invested X, this sold X amount of shoes. We invested X, this resulted in X amount of leads. We sold invested X, this resulted in X amount of emails. The one that's getting the better return is the one where the cash goes. Unfortunately, we will live in a world where it's a duopoly. It's Facebook and Google. There's not much more. Okay. In the digital sphere, but you decide that within Facebook, of course, within each of these, there's a plethora of things. Google is Google Search, is Google YouTube, it's Google Display Network. Within Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got left column, right column, this, stories, that. So yeah, we need to evaluate all this and whatever yields the best return for whatever objective you have.
So the best option for any kind of venture, impact or non-impact, would be to have people focused on evaluating and designing content and being focused on that.
And being focused on that, it's part of it. And if there aren't people, it's the person who's doing all the rest who has to do that as well.
So you think it's interesting that, because when I thought back then in 2007 when I created television, and I was thinking how would I structure my team and what kind of people and skills should I have? Digital was not a thing to, and this was 12 years ago. Now what you're saying is that you can't think of any team without having this digital.
You can't do anything without thinking digital. It's not even a team or a person or a department. It's your mindset, because everything is digital.
Yeah.
So it's not like you need to think that way from scratch.
Well, thank you, Rafic. It was.
Thank you, Fred.
If you don't have any more questions, you have 20 seconds to put more questions. If not, I'm going to close the session and thank Rafic for being here and sharing a bit of his experience and thoughts. It's a very wide subject, so we could be for hours talking about strategies in Facebook or in Instagram or whatever. But I think it was very useful to have a clear view about what to do regarding digital marketing, digital choices. Basically, the conclusion should be digital is no longer an option.
It's not a topic. It's not even a topic.
It's not an option. It's a must-do. Some insights about what you could do in your teams. I think it was very useful. Thank you, Rafic.